Hey guys, so today we are looking at things to do if you have grumbly knees. For the session, you will need maybe a cushion to kneel on, you'll need a foam roller and or a ball. Okay, so when we have grumbly knees, it can be for a whole host of things. And I want to be really clear, what we're going to do today is about trying to alleviate but not solve the root cause. Often, and not always, and there's a million different things, and if you have grumbly knees and if they're not getting better, please do go and see a physio who can look at you specifically and deal with the specific issue that you are facing, give you tailored advice just for you. But my starting point, if you first have grumbly knees before you go and see a physio, if you're just going, oh, they're feeling not great, what can I do about it? My starting point is always to check, are my quads too tight? My quads are my muscles at the front of my thighs here. So number one, we're going to do some stretching of your quads. Now, there's lots of different ways to stretch your quads. I'm going to show you my favorite one, but then I'll show you some other options. So kneeling, I would kneel on a cushion. It's quite aggressive on your knees, so I'd have a cushion underneath your knees, foot hooked up onto a couch, a chair, a box, something behind you, a bed. It's called the couch stretch, so couch works well. Foot hooked up behind you there. And then we're going to tuck the tailbone under and hold. And we're going to hold it here for about 2 minutes. As you do that, I want you to keep on focusing on tucking under. Imagine your pelvis as a bowl of water, tipping the water out the back. Now, if this is too aggressive on your knee, for whatever reason, we can go into a quad stretch with the leg on top. Keep the knees together. Try and get that knee pointing towards your foot and pulling up. And again, it's very easy to be here and kind of not really doing much. Knee pointing away from you, but again, the main thing is tucking the tailbone under and pulling up. And then we've obviously got your standing one that we all do, but if you're doing that, really make sure you're doing it well. So don't do the grab your heel, hold it for a few seconds, tip forwards like that, achieve nothing. You're still doing this whole 2 minutes that we're doing, knee pointing down to the floor, and then tucking under, pulling up at the top. So you've got your different choices there. If your knee just doesn't like that amount of compression, if bending the knee backwards for too long is too much, then I would just go for foam rolling, which we're going to go on to in a sec. So skip forwards in the video about 3 minutes from now, and hopefully we'll be onto the foam rolling by then. So keep tucking that tailbone under, tipping the water out the back. If it gets easier, we can make it harder by bringing the knee closer into the attachment point. Our goal is to get that knee as close to the attachment point behind us. Not the attachment point, sorry, the thing that we've got our foot hooked up on. Let's swap over onto the other side. If you want to compare both sides, match your knees. So put your knees down in the same point so you can see how it compares one side to the other. And make sure as we're doing this, it's really easy. I can just kneel here and I'm not really achieving anything. I want to make sure I'm keeping it active the whole time. So I'm really thinking about tucking under, tipping the water out the back. I can do that either as a constant hold, or I can do it as a tuck under, breathe out, release as I breathe in. Tuck under, breathe out, using that breath out to really develop, to loosen up that muscle. So your choice. It can be a constant effort or it can be an on-off in time with your breathing. Keep tucking under, keep tipping the water out the back. Remember, with these Mobility Monday sessions, you don't have to do them on a Monday. You can do them whenever you want, but you don't have to log into Club Feel Fit to access them. So I would save the playlist link, which if you're a client of mine, it's on your program on a Monday. If you're in Club Feel Fit, then you can still go through to find that link. Save that link to wherever in your, if you have an online diary, whenever you plan to do that session. So you get the reminder, block out 15 minutes in your diary to do that session whenever it is you plan to do it, and have the link in there. So there's no barrier to getting it done. All you need to do is go, oh yeah, 15 minutes, reminders come up, here's the link, load up the video. And that'll take you to the whole of the playlist, and then just find the latest one or find one that seems like it's the useful thing for you to be doing that day. So keep tucking under, keep drawing up at the front. If it's getting easier, we can take that knee further back behind us. For any stretch to be worth doing, want to be spending at least 60 to 90 minutes on it, but most of us have pretty tight quads. So spending a little bit longer on our quads is never going to be a bad idea. Okay, now if you didn't want to kneel for whatever reason, or I would always, if you have the chance, do a bit of stretching and rolling, we're going to go into rolling. So on your foam roller, and I'll show you a version with the ball in a second if you don't have a foam roller, but on your foam roller, elbows down on the floor, and we want to keep our body parallel with the floor. So we don't want to be doing the coming up as we come forward. We want to be keeping our body parallel with the floor. Now you'll be working your core a little bit as you do this. Pushing all the way up and down at first. So begin with that kind of self-exploration. And then working out where you need to spend a little bit longer. So for me, just above my knees here, I'm going to spend a little bit longer there. I can either do that going forwards and backwards over it, or I can go into contract, extend the muscle. So where it feels tightest, I've got my weight on there and I'm lowering my heels up and down. Now my quads are super tight at the moment. I did a big squat session yesterday. Well, I didn't feel that big at the time, but they're telling me about it now. And so I want to make sure I'm not going too hard. So if you're tensing up, you're not going to be doing that work of relaxing the muscle. So I'm making sure that I'm keeping my breathing nice and steady. When it feels hard, I'm relaxing, I'm breathing into it, putting more weight into my elbows, into my hands, so that I'm not taking too much weight into my body, so that I can keep that. I would say you don't want to go higher than a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in terms of pain. If you haven't got a foam roller, but you have got a ball, a little bit harder to work up and down. You can, but it's a bit faffy, but you can do cross friction up and down the leg. So start just above the knee or just below the hip, and then just work the ball up and down as you go. Not as easy, I would say, as using the foam roller, but it's certainly an option if you don't have a foam roller. And then we want to start to do the inside and the outside of our quads. Now, I don't believe in rolling down the side of your leg, rolling the IT band. There's no point in rolling the IT band because it's very tense or solid lump of fascia. You can literally hang a four-wheel drive off it. So you're not going to get any change in it by rolling it. So I'm not saying to roll the side of your leg, but just the inside and outside of the quad muscles. So I'm just onto my side slightly. So I'm doing the inside of one leg, the outside of the other, and then I roll onto the other side, do the inside of one leg, the outside of the other. And as I say, my quads are super tight right now. If they weren't, I could go into single leg, and it's a lot easier to do the inside and the outside of the legs in single leg, but that is definitely not an option for me right now. And I would make a note to myself that I need to come back and do more. So I'm going to move on to the next thing now, but I've definitely noted that they are very tight and I need to spend some longer time rolling them. You can always just press pause and spend a bit longer on it now if you want. We then want to do the inside of our knee. And often when we have grumbly knees, this is a really key point to check in on. So if you're using the foam roller, have the foam roller parallel with your body rather than across your body like you did for rolling the thighs, parallel with the body. And I'm just going to work the inside of the knee there. And I can feel where it's tightest, spending a little bit longer there. I can either go up and down the inside there, or I can take the foot up and just work across that. And again, I could use my ball here, and I'd say this is probably a little bit easier with the ball, but find what works for you. With the ball, I can kind of circle it around, work all the way around that area, and I can do that foot up and down. Now, please, as I said at the beginning, this is alleviating tight muscles. If the quads are tight, they tend to pull on that kneecap, and then the kneecap gets more friction with the area below. If we roll, we are alleviating that tightness, but we're not solving the reason they got tight in the first case. If it's like me, that I just did a killer quad session yesterday, fair enough. But if it's because we've got an imbalance, something that's not quite working right in our body, that's meaning muscles are tighter than they should be, and they're pulling on areas that they shouldn't be pulling on, swap over onto the other side, do the inside of the leg on the other side. Then we need to find out what that is. And generally, and again, I'm massively generalizing, and I would massively recommend seeing a physio to get specific advice to you. But very, very commonly, the reason that they're tight is because our glutes aren't doing their work. Our back glutes, our side glutes. So doing some work to develop the stability, the strength, but also just our ability to engage those glutes. You could have the strongest muscles in the world, but if you're not using them when you go out for a run or whatever, then that's going to have limited benefit. So thinking about those cues to tuck the tailbone under, feel the glutes engaging, keeping that neutral pelvis when we're running or walking even. But also coupled with that strength and stability work, which we definitely cover in Club Feel Fit, or if you've had knee issues in the past, your physio has no doubt given you some exercises to do. I would do those all the time, not just to get the glutes better, but see them as part of just general prehab, preventing those injuries happening. And then finally, let's just work around our glutes, making sure that there's nothing too tight pulling on anything there. So I would do this with a ball up against the wall, and we're particularly working in around the top area of our glutes. If you haven't got a ball, you can do it sitting on your roller, but trying to get into that top area. So I do with your leg outside and I'm kind of balanced 45 degrees up towards the ceiling there and working through that top area. On to the other side. And you can do the ball on the floor, but if you have a wall that works, then I would go for that, because it's just easier to adjust the amount of pressure that you're putting in there. So working all the way around there. And then, as I say, definitely coupling that with some glute stability work, which you can get in Club Feel Fit. Definitely block 28, the A sessions and the B sessions. Been doing lots of work on glute work in there. You'll find loads of exercises on the internet. Your physio will give you some. Okay, hope that's helpful. Hope that those grumbly knees are feeling better. If they don't get better, please do go see somebody. Don't just kind of go, well, if I don't run, they'll feel better, because yeah, that's true. But then when you start running again, they hurt again. So get those knees sorted. All right, take care.